comes the sun. Here comes the sun. I say it's alright.
Anyways, let's get into the first album from Canadian rock band Nickelback.
Curb.
1996. Their very first album. I didn't realize that Nickelback was that old, by the way. I thought they started in like the early 2000s, not 96. Curb. So from what a lot of my issues with this album from the get-go is I felt like it was mixed like it just felt like everything was compressed and everything was incredibly flat. I guess what's on streaming is the remaster. So I don't know if all my mixed critiques on this album and these songs are true to what it should be, but just take that going forward. This first album also kind of took me a lot by surprise. They sound like a Pearl Jam cover band. It's like, you know, like how when people turn like 60 or 70, they start doing tribute bands towards Pink Floyd or the Beatles. This is like the Gen X version of that. Yeah. Not even Gen X. This is like the millennial like cover band of Pearl Jam.
My notes for this album were literally Pearl Jam, Soundgarden, and Korn all mixed together in almost the worst way. Like, the album wasn't bad enough, and this was before I was really truly looking at the lyrics, but it has a certain grunginess to it, and it has a certain, like, weirdness that Korn offers, and it sounds like Chad is trying to do, like, a Kurt Cobain meets Chris Cornell kind of vibe, and it just ends up sounding really weird.
It does.
But that was my note for the first album. I listening to it like the first time around, you know what? I'll admit it. It wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be.
I agree.
For the first 3 songs.
I think there's like a little bit of like a almost rudimentary charm across this entire album. You know, it doesn't sound perfect, but like they're trying. It wouldn't be anything that I would go out of my way to play ever again, but I can listen to this and give it like a little bit of respect for a first album, especially knowing what the they turned into. Like I definitely like this more than a lot of their other stuff.
Most certainly, yeah.
It's hard to, again, I can't really say too much about the mix, but there is an annoying, I'm going to call it the Metallica Saint Anger snare. If you've ever listened to Saint Anger by Metallica, it sounds like they're hitting, Lars Ulrich is hitting a trash can for the snare drum instead of an actual snare drum. It's just super duper ringy. It's super duper fucking loud. It's very distracting for me as a drummer to hear something like that and hear it across the entire fucking album. But the first song that I wrote down, and it's playing right now, but I'm gonna restart it just so that we can focus on it a little bit. This is my least favorite off the album, and it has to do with me not understanding what the f he's saying. Like, it wasn't until I looked at the lyrics that I was able to kind of hear what he's saying. But like he's just talking like this. He's singing like this. It's like the last fucking like letter is being cut off, or the last syllable.
Yeah, and like I feel like that's almost what gives this album a saving grace, is because you can't hear what he's saying, right? and it, because it does have that like grittiness of like Chris Cornell or like Kurt Cobain, where you're like, like it's very like, you know, it's Pearl Jam, Soundgarden, Korn, and probably a little bit of Nirvana in there too, but like literally just the vocals. So like I think for me, listening to this album, I was like, oh yeah, like okay, this is setting the tone. It's the first album. I get it. I get the sound. I understand what's happening here. It's very like grunge, very, oh yeah, we're gonna, and I was like, that's a cool sound for this album. Looking back on this album, nothing changes. Literally nothing changes. I think they have the same, like, seeing these guys live is probably great because they don't have to change anything in between songs.
I think seeing these guys live would be fucking awful for that exact same reason.
Well, I mean, it would be awful because of the crowd and the fact that, like, every song is the same and they're a terrible band, and I would never want to listen to another one of their songs, even though we're listening to them right now, and now I am actually looking at the lyrics to this, and it actually tracks.
That's your opening line?
My first impression of this album was, all right, word, I can get down with grunge. Like, I like Alice in Chains, they're one of my favorite bands. I like Nirvana. I like Soundgarden, Audioslave, Pearl Jam, like all those like 90s rock grunge, like angsty kind of like, oh yeah. I like that kind of music. And so I was kind of taken aback when I was listening to this album, and it's like, now I'm looking back, it literally doesn't change. Like, this song is in their newest album, which dropped in 2023, by the way. They have the same two songs.
In 22.
But I'll get to that whole theory where they only have 2 songs. But for this album, I think Window Shopper was my least favorite.
Oh, I had that one written down.
The rest of them kind of all blended together and were fine.
Yeah, Window Shopper has that really annoying scratchy guitar riff.
Oh,
it has that awful St. Anger snare, and it has like the weird fucking like telephone vocal preset applied to Chad's voice. It's hello, it's me, Chad
sounds
Kroger.
Like it sounds like he's
answer?
like calling me and trying to sell me car insurance. Like, he's trying to tell me about Ford truck money.
Oh my god. I outside of those 2 songs, I mean, I also wrote down Fly, but it's kind of for the same reason. The fucking snare's awful, and I hate how he goes, and I don't know.
Yeah.
This first one doesn't have much to say. Nothing really interesting is going on.
But it's overall, it's a cool-ish sound.
Yeah, no, it's very
and
in its
had
time.
they changed anything, I think I would have been happier and been like, oh, cool. So that album was just more of like a tribute to like 1996 grunge rock, crazy KBPI shout out.
Yeah.
Kind of thing. You know what I mean? Oh my god. Yeah, no, I think Window Shopper's probably my least favorite on here. Just because it's very like, I mean, you're right. It's the phone call and the like scratchy guitar with the stupid garbage. It sounds like someone's banging together cans of beans.
Yeah, it sounds you're like
and,
taking
and
like
like
a pan lid.
if I look at the lyrics here, oh no, this is actually different. This is different. It's like passing glances fall on me like screams on deaf ears. They're all laughing at me with encouraging cheers. What's he done to me? Controls I really need. I mean, it reads like a manifesto. It reads like a school shooter. But for what they were going for with, you know, the Nirvana and grunge kind of like, not saying that music is school shooter, because like obviously I like that music, but like it has like that angst to it where it's like, oh, we're kids and we're fucking pissed and nobody likes me and oh
I
god,
hate the man.
Being a teenager is hard.
You dad.
Being a teenager is hard, and like I can see a teenager writing this and being like, oh yeah.
Yeah, no, I feel like, and yeah, good stroke, Burke. Jesus Christ.